The dead son, the avenging mother, the empire's reckoning. The blood in the water. The sun had barely risen when they found the body. Prince Aldrich, heir to the Celestian Empire, lay motionless in the sacred lake of Arindor, his golden armor reflecting the pale light of dawn. His lifeblood tainted the water, a stark contrast to the pristine blue that once symbolized the Empire's purity. His hands, once strong and steady with the sword, now floated limply, the weight of his armor pulling him toward the depths. The royal crest upon his chest had been desecrated, his own dagger plunged deep into his heart. The guards who discovered him trembled, torn between duty and fear. To bring such news to the Empress was to invite the storm. But there was no avoiding fate. The castle halls were silent as the Empress was roused from sleep. The soft rustling of robes, the anxious shuffle of feet, these small sounds heralded the breaking of a world. When Lyrian Celestia stepped into the chamber where her son's body had been laid, time itself seemed to hold its breath. A mother does not bury her child. A mother does not survive such loss. But Lyrian was not just a mother, she was an empress. And grief, when wielded by a ruler, was a weapon sharper than any blade. The web of betrayal. The High Council convened before noon. Lords, generals, and advisors, all seated in their grand chamber beneath the towering banners of the Empire. Their voices filled the hall with speculation and whispered accusations. The official declaration was swift. Aldrich had been assassinated by rebel forces seeking to destabilize the throne. The council called for measured retribution, a show of strength but not an outright war. Lyrian listened, and she knew they were lying. Her son had not been killed by outland rebels. The precision, the choice of weapon, the blatant display, this was no foreign assassin's work. This was the act of someone who knew the palace, someone who wanted Aldrich dead and had the power to make it so. Her eyes swept the room, noting the uneasy glances, the forced composure. Someone here had orchestrated her son's murder. When she finally spoke, her voice was as cold as the marble beneath their feet. I want names. Silence. The council exchanged glances. Lord Athrun, a veteran of the Empire's many wars, cleared his throat. Your Majesty, we have interrogated the rebels captured along the eastern border. They claim ignorance. I did not ask for what the rebels claim, Lyrian interrupted. I asked for names. The silence stretched longer this time. The Empress had ruled beside her husband, Emperor Cassiel, for decades. She had negotiated peace where others saw only war. She had forged alliances with words sharper than swords. And yet, these men dared to think they could deceive her. Her hands clenched beneath the table. Very well. If they would not give her the truth, she would take it herself. The Avenger's path. The Empire's nights grew darker as the Empress gathered her own council, not of politicians and nobles, but of warriors and spies. She summoned the Midnight Legion, an elite force that had once answered only to the crown. They were thought to be disbanded, erased from the Empire's ranks. But Lyrian had never truly let them go. Under the cover of darkness, her agents moved. They infiltrated, they whispered, they pried apart the carefully woven lies of the court. And one by one, the names came to her. General Varos, Lord Athrun, Chancellor Dornay, men who had sworn loyalty to the throne. Men who had stood beside Aldrich, praised him in public, and plotted his death in secret. And at the center of it all, Cassiel, her own husband. The Emperor had ordered their son's execution. The revelation was a knife to her soul. But Lyrian did not weep. Not yet. Instead, she sharpened her rage into resolve. One by one, those who had betrayed Aldrich would fall. The Empire would drown in the blood of its own corruption. And when the last traitor was dead, she would take the throne for herself. A mother's grief had become a reckoning. And the Empire would never be the same again. The gathering storm. The days that followed were quiet, but only on the surface. Lyrian played her role well, mourning in the eyes of the court while planning in the shadows. She knew Cassiel would be watching her, expecting sorrow to weaken her. But grief had forged her into something sharper. She met with the Midnight Legion's commanders in the hidden depths of the palace, beneath the grand halls where only ghosts and secrets remained. Maps were spread, routes of escape and attack drawn in careful ink. "My husband is not to be underestimated," she warned. "He has ruled with cunning, and he will not hesitate to strike first. We must be quicker." General Corvin, her most trusted warrior, nodded. "The Legion stands with you, Empress. Say the word, and we begin." The word would come soon. The fall of an emperor. It began with whispers. Rumors of rebellion stirred the streets, and the people, long oppressed under Cassiel's rule, began to listen. Then came the assassinations, silent and precise. Athrin fell first, found with his throat slit in his bedchamber. Dorne followed, poisoned at a council meeting, his face frozen in a grimace of shock. By the time Cassiel realized what was happening, it was too late. Lyrian stood before him in the throne room, her Midnight Legion at her back, the banners of the Empire torn and burning. "This is treason," he spat, drawing his sword. "No," Lyrian said, stepping forward. "This is justice." Their swords met, steel against steel, husband against wife. Cassiel was a skilled fighter, but he had grown complacent with age. Lyrian was fueled by fury, by loss, by the knowledge that she carried her son's vengeance in every strike. The killing blow was swift. Cassiel fell to his knees, blood spilling onto the steps of the throne. Lyrian stood over him, the weight of the Empire settling on her shoulders. "Aldrich sends his regards." With one final strike, it was over. The Empress's rule. With Cassiel's death, the Empire was reborn. The corrupt were purged, and the people, seeing the strength of their new ruler, rallied behind her. The Midnight Legion became the Empire's enforcers, ensuring that treachery would never again take root. Lyrian sat upon the throne, the crown resting on her brow. She had avenged her son, reclaimed her empire, and shaped a new future. The dead son, the avenging mother. In the heart of the Astorian Empire, where gold flows like rivers and power is measured in blood, a tragedy unfolds. Lady Alara Valmont, once a noblewoman of grace and mercy, stands over the lifeless body of her only son, Damien. His body is broken, his spirit stolen by the hands of the empire he once served. She does not weep, she does not wail. Instead, she makes a vow, to bring ruin to those who stole her child. The fall of Damien Valmont, a young captain in the Astorian Legion, is betrayed. Sent to quell a rebellion in the borderlands, he discovers the Empire's true cruelty. When he refuses to slaughter innocent villagers, his own comrades turn on him. Branded a traitor, he is executed without trial. His body is returned to his mother, but the truth is buried with him. A mother's grief, a warrior's rage. Alara, once a woman of refinement, embraces the darkness of vengeance. She seeks out the exiled warlord, Kael Draven, an old enemy of the Empire. Together, they forge an alliance built on hatred and a shared thirst for retribution. Kael provides her with warriors, weapons, and training. In the shadows, Alara transforms from noblewoman to warrior, her once delicate hands now stained with blood. The Empire's enemies unite, whispers of rebellion grow. Alara and Kael travel across the land, seeking out those who have suffered under the Empire's tyranny. From the slums of the capital to the war-ravaged villages of the borderlands, an army is born, an army fueled by vengeance. Among them are former Imperial soldiers, outcast sorcerers, and the remnants of the tribes Damien sought to protect. A reckoning begins. The first strike is swift and brutal. Alara leads an assault on an imperial outpost, the very same where her son was condemned. The garrison is slaughtered, the imperial banners burned. Messages are sent to the emperor, vengeance has come. But Alara knows this is just the beginning. The empire is vast, its grip on the land strong. To bring it down, she must go deeper. The emperor's wrath. Emperor Lucian Dareth, a man of ruthless ambition, does not take rebellion lightly. He sends his most feared general, Commander Gideon Valor, to crush the uprising. Valor, a man bound by duty but haunted by past sins, soon realizes that Alara's cause is not one of mere vengeance but of justice long denied. Torn between loyalty and morality, he hesitates, an act that will cost the empire dearly. The blood price. Alara and her forces march toward the capital, leaving devastation in their wake. Towns fall, supply lines are severed, and the empire's strongholds crumble one by one. The people, once cowed into submission, begin to rise. The legend of the Avenging Mother spreads, and with it, the fear in the emperor's heart. The betrayal and the siege. As the rebellion reaches its peak, an unexpected betrayal threatens to undo everything. One of Alara's closest allies, lured by power and gold, sells her plans to the empire. Trapped outside the capital walls, outnumbered and surrounded, all seems lost. But Alara is not a woman who bows to fate. She makes one final, desperate gambit. The reckoning. The battle for the empire's heart begins. Flames engulf the city as Alara and her warriors storm the gates. Kale Draven faces off against Commander Valor, while Alara fights her way to the emperor himself. The clash is brutal, a war not just of swords but of ideals. When she finally stands before Lucian Dareth, she does not give him the mercy he never gave her son. A new dawn, a mother's legacy. With the emperor's death, the Asturian Empire crumbles. Alara, bloodied but victorious, does not claim the throne. Instead, she leaves the fate of the empire to its people. As the dawn rises over a broken but hopeful land, she vanishes into legend, the mother who avenged her son, the woman who broke an empire.